Is LEVAN SAGINASHVILI the greatest arm wrestler of all time? I remember in the build-up to the Devin vs. LEVAN match, I had been thinking about this question a decent amount, and I thought that it probably hinged on exactly how well LEVAN did against Devin. If the match was very close, and it seemed like there was a pretty decent chance that LEVAN was going to lose over the next few years, then I was thinking the odds of him being the GOAT were probably a little bit lower, and especially if Devin had somehow ended up taking a round, then I probably wouldn't be thinking of LEVAN as having as high of a chance of being considered the GOAT. However, as we saw, LEVAN has maintained his 4-0 win streak, and if you guys did not remember this, LEVAN has not lost a single round in I think about 7 years at this point. Now I know that he technically did lose 2 rounds to Hermes, at least on the scorecard, but for me, I don't really feel like these count. As soon as you win the actual match, you're not really going to care that much about going back to the table just for the sake of entertainment, and even if you did, you're probably not going to try that hard. To me, the pins that really matter are the ones that actually affect the ultimate scorecard, and as far as that goes, LEVAN has not been pinned in like 7 years, which is pretty insane. And if we got some real deal arm wrestling history nerds in the comments, maybe they can confirm this, but I don't think that anyone has ever done this. Anyone pulling at the highest level in the sport, never getting pinned a single time in 7 years, I think is totally unheard of. Now, of course, someone like Brzenk has done things that are totally different. His legacy is super impressive. It's just in a totally different area. John was pulling multiple weight classes and has had more success over a total period of time, whereas LEVAN is only competing in the super heavyweight class and he has a more brief reign. However, I do think that the reign itself is probably at a much higher level, and I think it's probably more impressive. The level today is way higher than it was back when John was competing for the first time. So here's kind of what I'm thinking. I think LEVAN is already in the conversation for being the GOAT. He's managed to get to this 7-ish year mark without getting a single pin. I think that if he gets to 10 years without getting pinned a single time, he's probably the GOAT at that point. Just thinking about it, if you're telling your friends who the greatest arm wrestler ever is, it's probably going to be difficult to not mention the guy who hasn't gotten pinned in 10 years. Now, whether or not this is possible is a different thing. But to me, I think that there's probably one guy and maybe a couple of others who really have a good chance of at least getting a pin on LEVAN. Maybe they're not going to beat him, but I think they can at least get a pin potentially. And I do think the guy with the very best chance of doing that is Hermes Gasparini. Hermes is by far the closest out of everyone over the last 7 years to getting a pin. I think he really did have a chance of getting a pin at that King of the Table match in round 3. And whether or not that was a little bit of a fluke, maybe LEVAN was not at his peak level, it's difficult to know these things, but I do think that the rematch between Hermes and LEVAN is pretty much inevitable, so we'll have a lot of questions answered whenever that ends up happening. Another guy that maybe has a chance of getting a pin is Alex Krdecha at some point in the future. I probably wouldn't have said this in the past, but now that we did see Devin able to challenge LEVAN's hand and wrist a little bit in the center table, I think maybe Alex has some potential to do kind of the same thing there. And then I think there's an even lower chance that Dennis could do something, but maybe there's still a chance there. But when I say low chance, I think this is a very low chance. I think even Hermes has a very low chance, and I think he has the highest chance out of anyone. But let me know what you guys think about this. Do you feel like LEVAN is already the greatest of all time? Do you agree that if he's not the GOAT today, he will be if he manages to get to 10 years without getting pinned once? And how likely do you think it is that that will occur? And what's even crazier to think is that it might just be possible that LEVAN can get even stronger than he already is.